Anything
But
you'd like to say about Vijay Mallya? Just because
well, he's a very dear old friend, and I
everybody
think
says nice things about him who has been a friend to him.
yeah, he is a very nice guy, very smart guy. He really built the Kingfisher brand and made it into a global brand. Well, he made a big blunder starting Kingfisher Airlines. And I think his biggest blunder was to, you know, be in a hurry to go international. And when he bought over Deccan Airways, I think that's was the start of his downfall. Because I think it was a big price to pay for an airlines in those days where the business was just beginning to take off. And you know that everyone who used Kingfisher Airlines swore by the service.
Right.
I think he did a decent job, but I think financially it wasn't viable. The beer business was booming. I think if he had stuck to beer, he would still be a very successful businessman. But I guess he is the kind of entrepreneur or serial entrepreneur who wants to do different things.
What makes him so likable? Why do all his friends, like I know many of his friends, I don't know him, but every time a conversation about Vijay Mallya comes about, they all talk about him like a friend's friend.
No, and he was a very generous, and he is a very generous man. You know, he loves his friends. He's very generous with his friends, and he did live his life king size. You know what I mean? He enjoyed, having very, very extravagant parties. He was the man who brought in a lot of concerts into Bangalore. He really livened up this city, this country. Of course, he was the quintessential billionaire in terms of his lifestyle.
Right.
You know, he started Formula One, introduced India to Formula One by having Force India as the team. He did so many things, and I really wish he hadn't got himself into this position where he had to finally, call it quits and go and seek refuge in the UK, because I think he belongs here. He should be back here, and he is such a likable person, and he has such a brand appeal to the youth.
Yeah. And he has, in many ways, paid back a lot that he owed, or all of what he owed. Right?
Well,
The
he's paid
principal.
back everything he's owed. So I don't understand why he's still being targeted. I think, the government should actually allow him back, because he can actually do a lot more than what he's doing right now. Because right now he's just sort of taking refuge in the UK. But I think if he comes back to India, I'm sure he would get back to being who he is, and I'm sure he'd do other things.
And everybody kind of deserves second chances in life, right? Nobody's perfect.
I think so.
If we were to kind of like learn something from Vijay Mallya's story, and if the entrepreneurs watching have to take a lesson from that book, what do you think people should not do that he did?
That's a very good question, Nikhil. And in my view, I think it's about not being in denial and to recognize failure when you start seeing warning signs. I think all of us procrastinate the decision to pull the plug. And I think that's what happened to Vijay. I remember having a chat with Vijay. Vijay and I grew up, by the way. His father was the chairman of United Breweries. And so we were next door neighbors. He always considers me his elder sister. And, we grew up as kids, and I know him extremely well. And I remember during the days of trying to cope with the Kingfisher Airlines crisis, I kept telling him, I said, Vijay, downsize, cut your losses. You don't have to make this into a huge international airlines. And I think, if you just downsize your airlines and focus on the Indian market for the time being, and make sure that you cut your losses, I'm sure it will do you a lot of good. But he kept saying, no, I think I know what I'm doing. I think I can overcome this. I know that I'll be able to, pay this back. And I know I can raise debt and revive this whole business. So I think he was in denial. I think...
Is that ego?
it's not ego, but it's about not giving up. It's in a way, it's a bit of it's about a sort of uh, an attitude of saying I can't fail,
Hmm.
right? It's
Because
not
the
ego.
public perception of him became larger than himself.
I don't think that was the way he looked at it. He just was so passionate about that airlines that he wanted it to succeed at all costs.
Hmm.
And trying to make it succeed at all costs was just not a viable option. And that's what really failed him. So I think he kept mounting those losses. He kept sort of not being able to repay the debt in time. And there came a point where he just had to realize that he was heading towards bankruptcy.
Okay.